Welcome to this week's edition of the Dakota Angler 2-Minute Fishing Report. Well, folks, Mother Nature didn't really do us any favors with the warm spell, plus now with all the wind. That definitely caused some areas of concern on some of the lakes, especially south of Watertown. Some areas like Ponset opened up around the north end. Twin opened up in spots. And now with that cold snap, what makes it even worse is those open areas are now going to freeze up. It's going to lock back up, and there's not going to be any preventing that. And the problem you're going to have is it's going to be difficult for you to tell the thick ice from the thin ice. And so caution is definitely recommended, to say the least, using the spud bar and making sure you have all your safety equipment with you. But then also be familiar with the lake that you're going out on. And if you are not familiar with it, make sure you ask questions, whether or not it's on social media, or whether or not it's at a bait shop like ours, but know where those springs are at, those bad parts of where the lake was opened up at. So the key is making sure you realize the threat out there. But if you get further to the north of Watertown, no problems whatsoever, other than some unique locations such as Big Stone, being associated with the river. So the whole thing is, you get out by Bitter and Waubay, you got anywhere from 13 to 15, 16 inches of ice, and they're adding to it daily with this cold air. So again, there's plenty of good ice out there. It's just that, again, make sure you know where you're going before you head out. As far as the fishing report is concerned, it's been kind of a mixed bag of results because of the fronts coming through every so often, and we'll talk about that in Todd's Tackle Tips. So the lakes up in the northeastern part of the state that produce walleyes included Waubay and Bitter, and those are the two main lakes that everyone is going to because, again, due to the better ice conditions. And then also you have Dry Lake by Clark, Indian Springs, Rush, Big Stone, and the good areas where there's ice, and then also Midland, 3 Buck, a few being caught there, as well as at Casey Slough, and then also School and Minnewasta. Down the southeastern part of the state, the lakes that produce walleyes included Dry Lake by Willow Lake, Thompson and Ponset, and Ponset mainly, again, the south end, the north end is open around Stone Bridge. And then also Whitewood, Fish, 81 Ponds, again, the ice conditions variable at 81 Ponds, and then also Campbell and Twin. And also, as I mentioned, Twin is a trophy lake, but it also has some open spots before this cold snap. So again, be aware of that. Now, what are guys been using to catch the walleyes? It really hasn't been much of a pattern at all this past week or two. A lot of guys have been going back to spoons, and the Euro Tackle Spade Blade has been working really well. Again, it comes in a number of different sizes, but that's been working well. Also, we haven't talked about that this year, hardly much at all, but it seems like it's starting to take off. The Rattling Flyer from Lindy. Last year and the year before, they came out with a lot of new colors. This is their Wonder Bread color. So again, the Rattling Flyer has a unique shape to it, and so it kind of flutters as it drops. And then also new from Acme, and we talked about this earlier, but it really seems to be taking off now. The Ice Winder, all you do is tip that with a minnow head, and it's been working quite well. And then as far as the perch bite is concerned around the area, the lakes that have been producing perch around the northeastern part of the state include Waubay, Bitter, Stink, and then also Clear and Big Stone. Down in the southeastern part of the state, also Indian Springs, Dry Lake by Willow Lake, as well as Clark. And then Thompson, Ponset, 81 Ponds, and then also Whitewood. Now again, what people have been using to catch perch hasn't been anything earth-shattering. A lot of drop chain lures, including the Pinhead Pro. It's not a drop chain, but it's got a treble hook. But again, the Pinhead Pro has been a popular one for many, many years. And this is something that if you don't have in your tackle box, you need to have in it. And then also, from Clam, the Tika Flash. The Tika Flash continues to do well. You tip that with either minnow head or maggots or waxworms, and that's been lights out. And then also new from Bees Baits. This is a new jig that we started carrying this year. The Tungsten Bug Bomb has been working well for the crappies as well as the perch. Again, it just seems like the tungsten allows you to get back down there when you're in amongst the school. Plus the feathering has something to do with the presentation. Gives it a unique flutter as you're sitting there jigging it. So if you've never heard of the Bees Baits jig, stop on by here at the store and check them out. In this week's version of Todd's Tackle Tips, we're going to talk about the weather. Why? Because I'm a weatherman, and a lot of people have been talking about this past week that the perch, especially the perch, would come up and barely touch the bait and go back down. Come back up, look at it, and go back down. Same thing with the walleyes. So people have been wondering, what's going on? Folks, it's that time of the year that, you know, you get into the dog days of winter, so to speak, but also we've had so many fronts that have come in and vacated the area that the pressure has been fluctuating constantly, and that's the problem that you're experiencing out there. Pressure affects the fishing just like it affects us. All of you, if you've heard your relatives complain about their sore joints or you know, anything like that, that's caused by the change in pressure, and the fish feel that as well, and it's amplified that much more during the wintertime because the ice, you know, it takes up that much more volume in that body of water than what it otherwise would. So when the pressure is rising, the fish become more lethargic. And the reason why is because their bladder expands, they're not as hungry, the bladder takes up more space, and so what they do, they usually will sink to the bottom. They may come up and take a look at the bait, but they're really not that, and they're curious, but they're not that hungry because they feel full. But on days when the pressure is falling, the bladder shrinks, and they're out there on the prowl. They're actively looking for food. And those are the days that we used to call a full bucket day. On the other days, when the pressure's rising, we'd call a half bucket day, and you'd have to work your butt off because you'd have to go basically kamikaze fishing. In other words, drilling a lot of holes looking for those active fish or somewhat active fish that you could at least entice to bite. The thing that you need to remember with a high pressure day, in other words, you got blue skies, the days that we think that you want to go fishing because there's really not much weather going on other than probably the extreme cold. On those days, you're going to have to probably downsize your presentation and maybe not even jig, because if you jig, the slightest movement may cause that fish to spook. On days when there's low pressure, in other words, plenty of clouds and the wind's out of the south, you really don't need to worry because no matter what you put on your line, it's going to be successful. So the key is knowing those high pressure days and low pressure days, and how you can do that is by looking at the forecast. All you have to do is go to the Weather Service homepage at weather.gov, click on your location that you're going to go fishing, and take a look at the wind direction. If the wind direction is out of the south or southwest, the pressure will be falling. In other words, a low pressure day, a day when you don't have to worry. You're going to be successful if you find the fish. On the days when the wind is either north to northwest, those are the high pressure days, and those are the days that you're probably going to have to downsize. And those are the days when you're not going to have much wind out there. It's going to be fairly calm. On the days when there's the highest pressure ever, it's going to be very calm and a clear sky. So the key is understanding what the pressure does. It's not going to, you know, I don't tell people don't go out on high pressure days. Still go out when you can, but know what you're up to and know what you're up against, I should say, when you're out there on that body of water, and don't let the fish come to you on those high pressure days. You got to go find the fish, to say the least. So again, keep it in mind. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to give us a call at 605-336-9132 or stop by the store, because again, I've done a lot of research on this topic, to say the least, and it's one of those things that I love to share with people so you have a better understanding on how pressure affects your success. Now it's time to take a look at a few photos that you sent in to me this past week. And remember, folks, if you'd like your photo included in next week's version of the 2-Minute Fishing Report, all you have to do is send it to me, and you can do so by sending it to todd@dakotaangler.com. And folks, before we end this week's report, I want to remind you that if you are looking for that cold weather gear, because we still know there's plenty of winter left, and with this current cold snap, you obviously need to dress appropriately. We have plenty of cold weather gear on hand here at the store, whether or not you're talking about gloves, suits, bibs, you name it, we have it. Also, we have some co-branded stuff, some new stocking caps from Striker with the Dakota Angler logo on it right there, and then also the black and orange. That's one of my favorites, highly visible to say the least, and unbelievably warm. You know, with the loss of my hair, I realized how important the stocking cap is, and these things really do keep the old noggin quite warm. So if you're looking for something like this, stop by the store or order it online at dakotaangler.com. Well, folks, that's this week's version of the 2-Minute Fishing Report. For Dakota Angler, I'm the owner, Todd Heitkamp, and as we say around here, fish on! We'll see you in next week's, folks. Thanks for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I surely do. And I hope all of you stay healthy and stay safe.